red button means we are live. Some Casual Takes, episode 57, hosted by your boy, Stephen Pepper, here to casually talk sports. This episode is brought to you by no one. This is a secret stream today. What I mean by secret stream is obviously if you're watching this when it's uploaded to YouTube, this is no secret. It will be uploaded to YouTube. But what I mean by secret stream is if you, the people who watch this live, if you don't know, a lot of my audience who watches my podcast just watch my uploaded version on YouTube. If you don't know, I actually stream the podcast first live on Twitch, Twitch TV / Steven, Some Casual Takes. And I say it's a secret stream because usually I tell some of my friends and my TikTok followers, like, hey, I'm going live right now, or I'm going live tomorrow for the next episode of the podcast. Well, as you can see, I'm in a new backdrop, and I set up my internet like the other day, and I don't know how good the internet is, and I don't want to have a dozen people watch me live. And obviously, if I see this footage back and I'm glitching around on the screen, it's not getting uploaded to YouTube. But if you're watching this right now on YouTube, my Wi-Fi is fine and I wasn't glitching. But I didn't want to have a dozen people watch me live and I'm just glitching all over the place. So I'm testing my new Wi-Fi. But like I said in the last stream, we didn't have a stream on Friday because I just moved into my new place. Like, if you guys don't know, I go to Miami University in Ohio, and I live off campus in this new place. It's a nice house. I'm just testing the internet, so this is a little test stream. It's still going to get uploaded if this goes well. But you guys dig the background? The last couple of streams were in my real house's room. Now I'm in my room in this off-campus house. You can't see this poster. I'll give you a quick room tour before we get into the pod. You see this little flag right here? This is Lil Baby and Drake. The hype flags, you guys know what college kids know what hype flags are. Hype flag, it's life is amazing, it is what it should be. It's from Lil Baby and Drake's Yes Indeed. I'm a huge Drake fan, if you didn't know. Light skin, obviously. Still sad that Drake didn't drop the album. Speaking of his album, real quick, I might try to do an album review when it finally drops as a pod, because I do want to get into some music. And then you guys see my LeBron corner. All my Lesexuals are going to be loving this corner. Someone said this is the sticky corner because some people think I'm going to on these jerseys because I'm a Lesexual. I got a LeBron jersey here and LeBron 2020 smoking a cigar after winning the championship. That's just my room. Other than that, you got gray sheets, pretty basic college frat boy, like junior year type room, gray sheets, minimal, no decorations, Drake, LeBron all over the place. Solo episode because I'm getting used to a new school schedule. I don't want to drag anyone else. A lot of the other people that are usually featured on show all started school either this week or last week, and I don't want to force them into their new school schedule on my podcast. I actually have class at 1:15, so it's going to be a relatively shorter pod today as well, on top of being a secret one, because I do have to get to class. When it comes to when I'm going to do streams on Monday, I'm most likely going to do streams at 11. I started at 12-ish today. I was a little busy getting ready for class, but Mondays are usually going to be at 11. I got to figure out when Fridays are. Make sure you turn on notifications if you watch live on Twitch. If you watch on YouTube, you don't need to know when I'm going to go live. But for the people who watch on Twitch, make sure you turn on notifications because the Friday show should be, I believe, I have a class at 2:50, so I think I'm going to keep it at 11 as well for the Friday show. So let's get into it, guys. NFL preseason is over. I'm not going to break down every game, but we have a week to the NFL season. Not this weekend, but next Thursday. Thursday after this one is when the football season starts. The defending champion Kansas City Chiefs take on the Detroit Lions. The preseason's over. All the rookie quarterbacks play. Josh Jacobs finally signed for the Raiders. But we're going to talk a little bit of Cowboys today. Obviously, Trey Lance finally got traded. He is a Cowboy. We're going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you guys my most underrated NFL team as well. And then we're going to go to some basketball because I also love talking about NBA, if you can't tell. There's that Noah Lyles. He's a runner, track runner. He had some drama, controversy when he said about this like whole world champion thing. NBA aren't world champs. We're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about Austin Reaves and FIBA basketball as they actually played this morning. They just wrapped up their game. We're going to get into him. And I'm going to get into a little Steph Curry old head drama. So first, let's start with the Dallas Cowboys trading for Trey Lance. This happened over the weekend. The Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, traded for Trey Lance. They traded a 4th-round pick for him. A couple other teams were involved, but the Cowboys were the highest bidder. And, you know, these last couple of pods, I've been critical of Trey Lance. Not really just Trey Lance as a player per se. We were a little bit, but we were more critical of the 49ers wasting their pick on him. If you don't know, the 49ers traded 3 first-round picks for this dude, Trey Lance, and it just hasn't worked out. He started 4 games, and it looks like they're already moving on him. After starting last year, he became off in the first game before getting hurt. He's now in the third-string quarterback, and they traded him while they almost ruined his value. 3 first-round picks turning into a 4th-round pick 3 years later is bad. But I'm not going to talk about the 49ers and Trey Lance being a mistake because I talked about that on last stream. I'm not going to talk about them. This trade was more on the Dallas Cowboys because this trade was about Dak. Why would the Dallas Cowboys trade a 4th-round pick, more than any other team, by the way, on a backup quarterback, especially when their previous backup quarterback was serviceable? Because of their feelings about Dak. Lance is a former 3rd overall pick who is 22 years old still and mostly unproven. Dak, on the other hand, is a 30-year-old quarterback with injury concerns and has no more room to grow. And has no more room to grow. That's pretty promising when you're coming off a year leading the league in interceptions. You know, when I first got into football, one of the very first things that I heard was that the Cowboys are America's team. Jerry Jones and the boys ran the 90s, is what they all said. Well, since I've been alive, the only thing that they run is away from the NFC Championship game. They've had 0 appearances since 96. Cowboys fans want to win. They know how to win. But the issue is the guy under their center has a 2-4 career playoff record despite having super talented rosters. This move is the last warning sign for Dak because his future in Dallas could get really dark if he doesn't go on a deep playoff run. This trade was more about Dak Prescott. It wasn't about the 49ers. I'm not going to go all in on this 49ers. 3 years later, after spending 3 first-round picks trading up to get Trey Lance, how this trade was more of a reflection on the 49ers. No, this was about Dak. The 49ers are fine. They're fine. I mean, maybe in like 3 years, they're not going to look fine because a lot of the guys they traded for Trey Lance, picks that ended up in the Trey Lance deal, became stars. But this is more about the Cowboys. This is more about the Cowboys. Dak Prescott, he was interviewed after the trade to get his thoughts on it, and this is what Dak said. This is Dak. I think Dak knows. I'm not saying, okay, first of all, I'm not saying that the Cowboys are trading Dak. They're cutting Dak after this year. He's getting benched in week 8. No, Cowboys fans. I'm not saying like Dak's getting benched in week 6 after a 3-interception start for Trey Lance. No. I'm just saying his future is dark, and I think he knows this. He's been there for what? This is like year 8 now for Dak? Yeah, this is year 8. He's drafted in 2016. This is year 8 now for Dak in the Cowboys uniform, and he's a 2-4 playoff record. He got hurt a little bit last year. What if he gets hurt again? He's 30. And in like 2 years, his contract is due. That's not going to look good for Dak. They got a 22-year-old quarterback sitting behind him. Jerry Jones knows what he's doing. He still has a young CeeDee Lamb, a young Micah Parsons. He has a young core around him. Tony Pollard just got elevated at wide running back number 1. He has a unit around them that can last them 5 to 7 years. He needs a young quarterback on that Super Bowl timeline. And Dak Prescott's on his final years of his prime. 30. Well, we've known in recent years quarterbacks are playing until they're 37. But what if Dak's on his couple last years of his prime? Not going to look good for Dak if he's still losing playoff games, getting hurt. So this is what Dak said, quote, "To be honest with you, I'm not surprised by anything anymore," Prescott said. "I've been in this league 8 years, been on this team. It's hard to say I was surprised, to be honest with you." I can't say that I've necessarily expected it. No. I understand that it's a business, and I understand that they're probably on a timeline, and they need to get something done. Like Jones said, he felt it would strengthen his team. Yeah, as I said, ready to welcome Lance. We know the strength of the quarterback room that we have. Honestly, my heart and mind is with Will. If you guys don't know, at the end, we talk about Will Greer, former Panthers quarterback who's been kind of playing really good in the preseason. He just threw 305 yards and 2 touchdowns, and he's competing for that last quarterback spot. And now that Trey Lance, because Cooper Rush is still there. Now Trey Lance is coming in. It's over for Will Greer as a Cowboy, and I heard he was emotional. But for Dak Prescott, he's not surprised. Like I just said, Micah Parsons, young. CeeDee Lamb, young. They got a young core that can last like 5 years and make Dallas a really good team. Dak Prescott, 30 years old, injury prone, leading the league in interceptions. He's not on the timeline. Like, again, I'm not saying he's going to get benched, but this better light a fire under Dak Prescott's ass. It better motivate him to finally make the NFC Championship game. This is a really talented roster. Really is. I think they can really beat Philly this year. I thought they could beat last year. Now I really think they can now. I do. Philly won a Super Bowl under Dak Prescott's watch. And then they kind of stepped back and went away for a couple of years and then went to another Super Bowl again under Dak's watch. Your division rival went to 2 Super Bowls and won one under your watch. You can't even get out the second round. Divisional. You're 2-4, leading the league in interceptions. This was about getting Dak Prescott pressure so he can use this as motivation. He needs to. Or else Jerry Jones, I wouldn't be surprised Jerry Jones moves on. Jerry Jones moved off Tony Romo when he had the chance. I can see him moving off Dak Prescott if he's in that same can't get into the NFC Championship, win my quarterback boat. He was with Tony Romo. And Tony Romo was good. Dak Prescott's good. These are Pro Bowl level quarterbacks. These guys can win you games, win you a division. But, man, if you can't get me into a championship game and I got a young core and you're getting older, I need someone young along the ride. Remember, Tony Romo was getting older. Young core came in. Young core Zeke Elliott. Young core on the defensive side of the ball as well. They moved off and got Dak Prescott. Kind of similar situation maybe here. Water break. Okay, I want to give you guys my most underrated NFL team in the league. I think I'm going to do most overrated when I have a guest on, but I want to give you guys this most underrated team in the NFL because I've been watching this team in the preseason. I'm not like the biggest preseason watcher in the world because by the end of I don't really watch preseason fourth quarters just because the third string quarterback's in, third string defense is in, second string left guards in. I ain't trying to watch that. I do watch the first quarters because the rookie quarterbacks are in, the starter quarterbacks are, all the starting units are in, the rookies play. But there's one team that I've been keeping my eye on when their starters do play, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers. Man, have they been looking good. I said in my division winners podcast, I said the Steelers were in the fourth division. I didn't think I could win this division. And I said a lot of things about the Steelers, but I'm like, man, I'm not walking back on this take, by the way. I still think realistically this team, and now it's not on them. I said this team could be fourth place and still be 500. This division has the Ravens, Browns, and Bengals. I'm not going to fully walk back on my take, but this team is impressing me really in the preseason. I think when I look at who's the most underrated, who's the most sleeper team in the AFC, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. So my sleeper team this season is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin always amazes me because this team, despite having a big flaw somewhere for the last 10 years, he always manages to take the club to be 500. Like last year, the offense was allergic to the end zone. Bottom 10 in total yards, 6 fewest points per game. Kenny Pickett, 7 touchdowns, 9 picks. They were still somehow 500. Why? Because the defense keeps them in games. And now TJ Watt, arguably the best defender in the world, is back. And he's looking healthy. This defense and team is way better record-wise. Look it up when TJ Watt's playing. But what separates this team from last year is the offense. Although it's the preseason, this offense has shown me improvement. Kenny Pickett is slinging it, man. He is. 2 incompletions in 3 starts in the preseason. I know it's preseason, but that's really good. George Pickens is also awesome. Also looking like an amazing young wide receiver talent. I'm not saying this team is a playoff lock. This team could very well finish 4th in the division. But I think this team will be in it in that playoff race till the very end. The defense is going to keep them in games, and I think Pickett is capable enough to scoring enough to win a handful of games. My most sleeper team this year is the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm keeping an eye on them, man. I'm really enjoying them in the preseason because I remember I said, the reason why I didn't have them competing well in this division, Like, the reason why I said that I don't think they could win the division, I don't think they'll play second place. I said it was because I think the offense is going to hold the team back. I didn't think the offense was ready yet. I thought they were probably too young. But it looks like year two, picking the preseason, 2 incompletions, throwing touchdowns. He's pushing the ball down the field. Kenny Pickett's averaging like 10 to 20 yards per pass. He is slinging it down the field. George Pickens, I mean, last year, he already had one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. That one-handed falling back. I think it was against the Commanders. I could be wrong. He's in year 2. He's good. Deontay Johnson's still there. The defense is still relatively the same. Now TJ Watt's back. They're all healthy. This team is good. It's really good. And I think they're always going to finish 500. So I can't say like this team is no, I'm not saying like saying the Texans is a sleeper is like a huge wild card because the Texans could easily finish with 2 wins. But since this team is always like 500, I think this is a really good sleeper. If you want to put some, I don't think they're, if you were to do like a bet, now this is not gambling advice, but if you were to do a bet, like what team would make the playoffs, the Pittsburgh Steelers probably aren't a high favorite. I think they're probably middle of the pack. You can probably get some good money off the Pittsburgh Steelers. You got a team that's almost pretty much guaranteed in the last 15 years to be 500. I think it's like, 16 now to be 500 under Mike Tomlin every year under Tomlin. The defense is going to be amazing. Probably going to be a top 10 defense in the league, especially if TJ Watt can play the whole season and recapture that 22.5 sacks that he had. That's tied for an NFL record in a single season, by the way. Got George Pickens there. Pickett slinging the ball. This team actually looks like they can score points. I think they've scored at least 24 points or more in all 3 preseason games. I think they're scoring at least a touchdown or 2 in each of the fourth quarters. Like that the first quarter matters. That's when the starting offenses play. That's when Pickett's playing. That's when the starting opposing defense is playing. They're scoring a touchdown or 2 per fourth quarter. The defense is getting takeaways. Look at that defense against Buffalo. Buffalo, I had that team winning the Super Bowl last year. I had Buffalo win the division this year. Look how they handled Buffalo. This team is good. I think they're my sleeper team. I got a lot of Steelers fans who are friends of me. They'll probably appreciate that take. All right, so let's get to this World Champs thing. It was really trending last night in the sports Twitter, sports TikTok world. This whole like issue about the World Champs in the NBA. So, like this USA runner. If you guys don't follow like track and field and like the 400 and 100 meter relays and all that, they're competing right now. Over there in Budapest. No, this is 2022. Wrong information. But they're competing. This is a guy, apparently this is like our best runner for USA. I don't follow track and field. He's a star. He's well known, very popular in the track and field space. Noah Lyles is his name, and he was asked. He didn't hold back about like the whole NBA World Champ thing because the USA he runs for Team USA, so he's playing against other countries. So when he hears like NBA World Champ Denver Nuggets, I guess he doesn't agree with that. He said, "Quote World Champ." He said like World Champs of what? The United States. He said it like that. And you guys probably seen the viral clip, so I'm not gonna repeat it. So he has an issue with an NBA team when they win the NBA Finals called the World Champs. Like I said, the Cleveland Cavaliers are the World Champs. We are the World Champs. He has an issue with that. Which I mean, like, out of all of the American sports, calling basketball, being so against basketball being called the World Champs, you could have picked on the NFL, dude. You could have picked on the NFL. Baseball's getting a bit better, but you still kind of could have picked on baseball a little bit. Hockey, I don't know, hockey, there's some world elements in there. But of all the American sports, dude, you're picking on the NBA. This would have been a valid bar. This would have been a valid verse, a valid take, like in the 1950s. Like 50 years ago when plumbers ran the league, when it was like an all-white league or an all-American league. But not anymore, dude. The NBA is a global brand. Wake up. Wake up. We have teams in Canada now. The Toronto Raptors have been there since the late 90s, and we had a team in Vancouver once. We have a franchise outside of the NBA. We're playing games in France this year. We're playing around the world. But what makes us the world champs so valid is because the NBA is the world's league. I get what he's trying to say, though, because, like, this is a league in America made up of mostly American players. We're not playing a team in Rwanda. We're not playing a team in Pakistan. We're playing a majority American franchises. How are we the world champs? But the best international players are in the NBA, not in their country. If you're the best Japanese basketball player, you're in the NBA when you're eligible, like when you're old enough, like because there's eligibility rules because of age. When you're old enough, when you're the best Japanese basketball player, you're in the NBA. Best French basketball players are in the NBA. The best Slovenia players are in the. You get what I'm saying? Like the best international players are in the NBA. The NBA features the best players in the world. So that means we're the best league in the world. We're the world's league. The NBA doesn't discriminate. The NBA has open borders. Yes, all of the franchises are American, but any country that is eligible that can send a basketball player over here, we can grab a basketball player from their country. They're allowed to play. There's no discrimination laws against countries in the NBA. I mean, at least I don't think of. Someone's kind of going to be like, oh, section. The NBA's open borders. There's so many countries that make up the NBA. I mean, what the last couple of MVPs have all been foreign. Like the MVP candidates, Luka Doncic a candidate. Giannis won back-to-back MVPs in 19 and 20. The last, like, however many MVPs have all not been the American. The All-NBA is mostly American. SGA is mostly not American. SGA is Canadian. Jokic is not from the United States. Giannis is from Greece. Joel Embiid, he's from Cameroon. Like, all these guys aren't from the United States. We're the best players internationally, play also in the NBA. That's why they are considered, the NBA are considered world champions. If you don't agree with me, put the best international players not in the NBA on one team. Make an all-star team out of those guys from every single country, by the way. Put them all on one team, the best international players not in the NBA, and put them against like the Denver Nuggets, the Los Angeles Lakers, and the Milwaukee Bucks. They will lose. The best international talent is in the NBA, and it's showing too, especially in recent years. Dude, you probably could have made this comment like 15 years ago, but now in all NBA first teams and pretty much almost every NBA accolade is taken by, I think every accolade other than like defensive player of the year or something like that was taken by someone internationally. The last 5 MVPs, guys leading PER, points per game leaders, most of the guys are international. And you're saying that we're not an international league because there's not a franchise in Kenya or something like. I guess that's what he's trying to say. I think the NBA is a global league, and he got cooked in the comments, got absolutely violated in the comments on many Instagram posts. Damian Lillard, KD, D-Book, they're all facepalm emoji, SMH. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and it's facts, bro. And it's facts. We're not competing against other country franchises because the other country's best players are in the United States. We're not competing against a team in Greece because Greece's best players are in the United States. That's how it is. They are the world champs. You could say this about the NFL, dude. The NFL is barely global. They got one game like Germany, one game in London, one game in Mexico City. You got no franchises outside the United States. You could have made about the NFL. Don't talk about, and there's not that many like foreign players in the NFL too. It's still, I need to see the demographics on the NFL. It's probably like 75, like probably like 90% American still. The NBA is a global brand. There's no way you made that comment about the NBA. Noah Lyles. All right. Now on the topic of basketball, let's talk about this FIBA basketball. The United States advances to 2-0 in the FIBA basketball World Cup with a 109-181 win over Greece this morning. Blowout win. Team USA is cooking. By the way, to anyone who had confusion, I know a while back I said Team USA's mid. We're losing talent on the FIBA. I still think we're going to win gold. I also said that in the pod, but I think some people didn't think we were. I said they were. I think some people think I said they were cheeks and they're going to like lose to Canada. I still think they're going to win gold. They're still the best team in the world, and it's showing. There's one dude on the Team USA team who I watch. The reason why I'm even watching most of Team USA, not because I like Anthony Edwards, but I'm watching because of Austin Reaves. I'm fascinated with Austin Reaves as a player. I really am. As a guy, as a LeBron fan, I have to watch all the Lakers games. Just to see Austin Reaves being undrafted white kid from Oklahoma grow to some star. That's what we're about to talk about. Growing to a star right in front of our very eyes, leading our country to gold. That's Austin Reaves now. And I want to talk about with you guys, Austin Reaves is becoming a star in front of our very eyes. And since he's becoming a star right in front of our very eyes, and since he's getting all this attention, I think going into next season, the way we view Austin Reaves needs to change. I think we can no longer treat Austin Reaves like he's some undrafted free agent on some inland sanity run. What Austin Reaves is showing us in the playoffs, in FIBA, is that he's not only here to stay, he's a damn good player himself. Let's look at Reaves' playoff stats real quick. Let me pull up. This is Reaves in the Western Conference Finals, an important series. It's the step before the NBA Finals. Austin Reaves, huge stage, national television for the Los Angeles Lakers. 21 points per game, 5 assists. So second in points, second in assists on 50-40-90 splits. Actually, it was 55, 56, 100 splits. Didn't miss a free throw shot. 56 from 3 and 55 from the field. And Austin Reaves in FIBA. Let me get Austin Reaves' FIBA stats. Before this was Austin Reaves in the 5 exhibition games. He was 11.4 points per game, which is third on the team. 2.4 rebounds a game, 2.2 assists per game, 60.6% from the field. That's second on the team. 57.1% from 3. That's first on the team. 57. Oh my God. 16. Oh my God. 16.6 minutes per game. That's seventh on the team. And the USA was 5-0. So he was seventh in minutes, but he was like third in scoring, second in field goal, first in three-pointer. That was Austin Reaves. In Austin Reaves today against Greece in that blowout win, led the team with 15 points, 5 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, and 4 of 7 from the field. That's Austin Reaves. That's who LeBron's teammate is going to be on a championship run. I think Reaves might be the most popular player in the league right now, just by the way he's everywhere in the media. Every basketball media is talking about Austin Reaves. You got fans in other countries saying Austin Reaves is him. He is that popular. People are putting him into tiers with fringe all-stars, if not all-stars, which is fine. But we need to start criticizing him as if he is a fringe star. So if he has a bad game, we must critique him going into next season as if he is a fringe star. We must give him expectations going into next season as a fringe star. Because if we're going to have Austin Reaves' face everywhere in the media and put him on tier lists like The Athletic in tier list with fringe all-stars, we must give him fringe all-star expectations, because anything less than a fringe all-star from Austin Reaves is a disappointment. We cannot be surprised by what he is doing anymore. He is a fringe all-star level player, so he should have fringe all-star level expectations. So if Austin Reaves has a stinker series next year or has a bad stretch of games, we can't just put it under the table and say he was an undrafted player. We can't just pay no mind to it like what he was doing before wasn't crazy. No, he's on an all-star level player. He should get all-star level expectations. That's my thoughts on Austin Reaves. But it's crazy. This is a guy, Austin Reaves, 21 points a game, 5 assists on over 50, 40, 90 splits in a Western Conference Finals. Austin Reaves is leading FIBA games on a team with Anthony Edwards and Brandon Ingram, Jalen Brunson in points. He's extremely efficient. He's putting up star numbers. So next season, we should treat him as if he's a fringe star. Because if we want to put Austin Reaves in tiers of fringe to star level players, then we must criticize him and critique him and set the bar of play as a fringe player. Because anything less, anything under that is a disappointment. Is not meeting expectations. Those should be the expectations for Austin Reaves this year. The man's out here giving us, he's barely missing shots in FIBA. He's giving you double-digit points, not even a top 5 minutes guy. He's scoring more points than guys like Ant, scored more points guys like Jalen Brunson. These are dudes who can easily get you 20, 39 in the NBA. They have starting roles, and he's out here giving you 15 points a game. 21 points per game, 20 points per game in a playoff run from Austin Reaves, by the way. He's a fringe star level player. Put him on the same tiers like Tyler Hero, Maxey, fringe star level player. Put him on that list. Put him next to these guys. See people put him next to guys like Drew Holiday. These are fringe all-stars, which is fine. I think Austin Reaves' talent and his production lately is at that level. But we must critique Austin Reaves as if he is that player. Because what I fear is next season, the anti-Laker fans, you guys go to school, right? I'm going to go to class in 20 minutes. If you guys go to school, you know for every reaction is an equal opposite reaction. So, I feel like there will be a group of people who will troll Austin Reaves on Twitter. Most of them are going to be anti-Laker and LeBron fans and say he's trash when he has a bad series or stretch. Say he's overrated. So there will be that player. But that group of people, I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who will excuse Austin Reaves or not go as hard on him as if he was an actual solidified fringe all-star. And some people still have this, he's on an insanity run right now. He's a cool player. Let's just ride it out. And if he disappoints, he disappoints. I feel like any disappointment from Austin Reaves going forward is a true disappointment, and we should hold that to him as a player instead of just saying, oh, he's on an insanity run. Well, let's go into my last topic of the day. Let's talk about this thing I saw from Charles Barkley. Let me get the quote here. So Charles Barkley was on the Bill Simmons podcast, really good basketball podcast, Bill Simmons. He had Charles Barkley on. And let me give you some context to this interview. So Charles Barkley started off first. He was praising Michael Jordan for surviving, like an old head will, glaze Michael Jordan. What's new, guys? What's new? Let's just praise MJ. He deserves all the praise in the world, man. But I'm just saying, what's new? Old head who lost to Jordan, praising Jordan to make their careers look better. So Barkley was praising Jordan for surviving in the physical, play of the 80s, the common old head glazing the 80s Pistons. And Barkley was wondering, what if Steph Curry and the Warriors were teleported back to Barkley's era, Bad Boy Pistons, MJ era? How would they fare? So this is what Charles Barkley had to say. He said, quote, "You have to admit it's a lot easier to play basketball nowadays because you can't hit anybody. As much as I love Steph Curry, and I love Steph Curry, I guess that's how he said it. Can you imagine if the bad boys were beating the hell out of him? Can you imagine that? As much as I love Steph Curry, if you think he could take those blows that John Sally, Dennis Rodman, Bill Laimbeer, those body checks that were putting Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen and guys like myself like that, you really think Steph Curry wouldn't break? Just more typical old head. We've seen this before, man. This is the latest edition of old head claiming every new era player wouldn't survive back then, holding up their era in a pedestal like it's boxing. Doesn't believe Steph Curry could handle the physicality of old school NBA. Do these old heads know that the internet exists? Probably not, because they're pushing 70 and probably work a smartphone. But on the internet, you can go back and watch most of the games, full games from their era. Grandpa, we are not fooled by this aura that all y'all are trying to build around the 80s and 90s. I do agree that the game was more physical back then. Some of the fouls were harder and you could hand check. But I swear to God, they all pretend that you needed MMA training as a draft prerequisite because it was that violent in the NBA. Dude, no matter how many tough 90s documentaries or no matter how many tough New York Knicks 90 documentaries or Bad Boy Piston flagrant foul compilations y'all put out, it doesn't hide the tape of wide open layups and illegal defenses from me. And this is a player they always love to pick on. They love to pick on Steph because he's not the biggest guy in the world and he plays more of a finesse game. And they think he wouldn't dominate in their era. Steph is cooking in that era. What are we talking about here? They refuse to believe that small guards could play in their era. Like, what? Like, Muhammad Abdul Rauf was 6'1", 160, and was almost 20 points per game. He was like the 90s Steph Curry. Steph getting 30, easy. They'd be like, LeBron couldn't survive in the 90s. Then who the hell let 5'3" Muggsy Bogues score 10 points a game? You know how dumb they sound, bro? Charles Barkley trying to talk about, the paint's tough. I mean, again, I do agree. There were harder fouls. I've seen some clips of Bill Laimbeer just taking out MJ. But that didn't happen every time. See, these documentaries and word of mouth, these legends, these last dance stocks, these 30 for 30s on the Pistons and the Knicks, and these 30 years worth of interviews from these guys, these Pacer teams and all these other teams. It's like they've made the Boston Celtics, the Lakers, all these old heads from the 80s and 90s, 30, 40 years of interviews. They've made this myth, this aura that as soon as you touch the paint, you were going to get assaulted. They make it sound like as soon as you touch the paint, you gotta put on boxing gloves as you're driving down the lane, or else you're gonna get sucker punched every single time. That just didn't happen every time. Was there a hard foul every once in a while? Yes. But I'm not fooled by these legends and auras and myths that they're trying to put the 90s was just the hardest basketball in the world. If the 90s was so hard, then 5'3" Muggsy Bogues, there's no way in hell he should have even had a roster spot. And the fact that he was 10 points a game for a couple seasons, there's no way Steph Curry is not 30 points per game. As a matter of fact, these tough defenders like Gary Payton and Sidney Moncrief have never, ever seen the move Steph Curry could put on those dudes. The offenses that the Warriors could run. They've never seen all those screens and motions. They've never seen that spacing. Bill Laimbeer is barely going to be in the paint half the time because he's going to have to run around on Steph Curry, chasing him on pick and rolls. And the spacing is going to suck all those John Sallies and Charles Oakleys of the world out the paint if they play the Warriors. So I don't want to hear that they would have got beat up in the paint. They wouldn't even be in the paint to begin with. Dude, Rauf was 10 a game, 20 a game. And people say he was the late 80s, 90s Steph Curry. Steph Curry's getting 40, dude. He's getting 40 in this era. If I had $1 every time an old dude went on ESPN or a podcast or a 30 for 30 or a documentary to just talk and boost up this era like it was a Conor McGregor ring, I would be Jeff Bezos with the money. It's insane. Yeah, I don't need to see. I always said that the bad boy Piston stocks of the world have done bad consequences to discourse, and we just keep letting these old heads prop up the game. I have the internet. I can pull up the 1988 NBA Finals, and although I do see physicality, although I see hand checking and defenses playing with leads, although I see the Eastern Conference Finals of '89, although I see Jordan, maybe Pippen get hit in the air and it'd be a hard foul every once in a while, I do see that. But there's how many possessions in basketball? There's a lot. And to say that Michael Jordan is getting absolutely thrown away every single time is crazy. Here we go with Michael Jordan was just some skinny kid who was soft and couldn't survive in the 80s. So he had to get swole in order to beat the bad boy. That's such a myth, dude. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it did help, but MJ was still giving the Pistons and the Larry Legend Celtics 25 to 35 points a game. He dropped 60 on the Celtics in year 2 in his second season. What did we? Again, if I had $1 every time I heard this old head get on a podcast talking about how tough his era is. Like, do you seriously don't think Steph Curry would survive? I get Steph Curry's not the biggest dude in the world, and he doesn't play a physical game. He's not like a Russell Westbrook type of point guard. He's not a Derrick Rose. He's not a John Wall. He's more of a finesse point guard. But there was a finesse point guards in the NBA as well. John Stockton was like 6 feet tall. There's so many 6 foot, 6'1", under sub 200-pound point guards who thrived, who made all NBAs. Mark Price thrived. John Stockton thrived. Zeke thrived. All these dudes are 6'1", 6 foot, 6'2", sub 200. They thrived. You can't tell me Steph Curry at 6'3", over 200 pounds, wouldn't thrive. I know he doesn't play that physical brand of basketball, but his way of playing basketball would take guys out the paint with his spacing and the way he manipulates pick and rolls with his ball handling, off-ball movements. Steph Curry could easily get 30, 28, 25 to 30 points per game in his era. I don't think that's like impossible. I don't care that he's 6'2". Don't care. Well, that's it for today's pod. Shout out to everyone who watched. This was a secret stream. I didn't tell anyone I was going live today because I wanted to make sure that my internet was working. So this was like test run internet stream. But if this is up on YouTube and you're watching on YouTube, thank you. If you're also watching on YouTube, that means that my internet was working fine. If you guys like the new background, let me know. Follow all my social medias to stay updated on everything, all things related to shows, any update alerts, any clips and highlights in case you don't want to watch the full 40 minutes. Wow, we did a good job today of the show. It's called Some Casual Takes, just like the Twitch and the YouTube, same handle and everything. Next show should be Friday at 11. I know I started at 12. I'm going to try to start at 11 if I don't have any homework. I'm going to see how this show starts time. If I change start time, I'll tell you guys on social media because I am a busy school dude. I have a lot to do. But thank you, everyone, for listening. Until Some Casual Takes 59, it's been a pleasure.